What's up, Dolphins fans? Welcome to Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. I am your host, Nic Rohloff. Hopefully, everybody is having a very nice Tuesday afternoon because we have a lot to discuss around this Dolphins football team. We are in the second week of NFL free agency. Things have slowed down quite a bit. Miami has made 16 signings, whether they are exterior free agents, whether they were re-signings. There's been 16 moves made by this organization and Chris Grier. We're going to look a lot at the NFL Draft today. We're going to see where things stand following the first week and a half of free agency. Plus, I'm also going to discuss one signing that I think flew underneath the radar that I think is going to be a highway robbery type of signing where we look back at this move in 6-7 months when we're in the middle of the season. We're like, I can't believe Chris Grier found this player on a specific value that they did. But before we get into that, I want to let people come in and join our live show today. And, well, I want to know where the real ones are watching from. So shout out your city for me down in the comment section. Where are the real ones at? As we are with my guy Justin today again, hanging out with us here on this Tuesday afternoon. But let me know how everybody's doing in the chat. Let me know where y'all watching from. Bricks is from California. See Miami from Joey. Joey loves the draft. I do as well. We got Hot Dog from Lockport, New York. I always know that. We got Joey from Dayton, Ohio. Los Angeles. Jonathan Soto's in the building. What's up? In Melbourne, Florida. Tampa for Dorian. Auckland, New Zealand for Chris. Wales in the UK. All right. Worldwide, I see around here. I love it. Orlando, East Coast, West Coast. Don't disagree there. I tell you what, living in Dallas, Texas is unfortunately, that's the one thing that I don't like the most. I love Dallas, but I am an East Coast guy. I am. I'm an East Coast guy, so it hurts not being on that East Coast, West Coast. Nick is in New Jersey. King Gaming is in Atlanta. Shout out to all the real ones tuning in, baby. We got a lot. I said Dayton, Ohio. I don't know if I gave a shout out there. Meat says best signings were James Daniels and the punter, Ryan Stonehouse. Listen, I like both of those signings quite a bit, but the signing that I am going to talk about in depth about in our first segment of today's show is actually none of those two players. That's a different guy. I'm a different guy. Brooke says, where are you getting your merch at? This sweatshirt specifically, I believe, was from Fanatics. I don't know the brand. The brand is actually, I don't know. Like, I've never seen this brand, to be honest. It's like I don't even know what it looks like. But I found this on Fanatics, and I had to cop. I like the creamish color. This, like, beige type of color is my favorite to wear. It's not my favorite color. My favorite color is actually orange, fun fact. But at least in terms of clothing, it's this little tannish color, and I like the little Miami Dolphins font here, the little sneaky logo, but then on the back, it's much more loud here. It got Haaland from the state of Florida. I don't know. I rock with this hoodie, man. I rock with this hoodie. It's very comfortable, too. It's that perfect blend of thick, but not that thick. I don't know. I love it. It's one of my favorite hoodies, man. I love my favorite hoodies. Not even just, like, normal, but, like, Dolphins as well. Dolphins as well. Appreciate it, Bricks. Yeah, we need to fill on the gaps, but I don't think so, Joey. I don't think so. Virginia from Elwood. Good to see all y'all. All right, 71 people watching. Let me know. Listen, we're, 8 days into free agency, Justin. Started last Monday. So the Dolphins have made the 16 moves that we talked about, the signings. Grade the Dolphins free agency so far. It's also our live poll as well. Our live poll as well. Grade the Dolphins offseason free agency so far, A, B, C, D, or F. 52% of the people, Justin, has graded it out as a C. Justin, you've been here for every move the Dolphins have made in free agency and the offseason. What would you grade it at?
Why not a B minus?
B minus? Listen, I am not someone who is trying to tell people that this is the best offseason of all time. I've been very open about there being some contracts out there that I'm not happy the Dolphins didn't jump in and do. Like Jeremy Chin, for example, when I thought the Dolphins should have absolutely given him a 2-year, $16 million contract in total. Like some of these offensive linemen, I could understand Miami not being interested because it is just so expensive of a contract. But I think it's been a C+. That's where I think. I go a little C+. They've found some good value, but nothing crazy. Nothing crazy.
I think they're sitting pretty in a as far as the draft compared to what they were well before free agency started, quite honestly.
Yeah, they need to find corners. They still don't have a defensive line. They have one player on their defensive line. That's an issue. And they need a starting left guard, obviously. But they did some nice things. I like the 2 depth pieces, Ashtyn Davis, Ifeatu Melifonwu. I like the backup quarterback move for Zach Wilson. I like a lot of these moves. Underrated is the word to use, but I feel like the Dolphins could have created another about $15 million in cap space if they restructured Jordan Brooks, Zach Sealer, and Austin Jackson. And they could have used that cap space to get a starting corner, one that's like actually good. And right now they don't have one, and that's tough. That's tough. I see Elwood saying C, C-, C, C, C+. So a lot of you guys are like me. Ryan saying B, Finn fan from Rochester, New York. Shout out to Ryan. Brick says, I'm really disturbed with these ads with even when you're live. That's crazy. Well, I hope you know, whatever ads you get is not us. It's not us, man. That's YouTube placing those ads, and their ad algorithm is catered towards your profile. So whatever ads you're seeing, Bricks, is curated by YouTube for you. They're not us. They are not us. What's up, Frank O'Connor? What's in the building? Is Tyreek being traded? No, Tyreek Hill's not being traded. Very open. I wanted him dealt in the first month of the offseason after the initial trade request, but after I was told by people close to Tyreek Hill that he wants to stay in Miami and the Dolphins like him, then there's going to be no trade. There's going to be no trade. He's staying here. All right, I did want to remind the people here as we are close to the show being underway that our March competition is still raging on. Remember, whoever sends in the most $50 super chats in the month of March, we call it the March MVP of the channel. We have a Dan Marino autographed jersey that we will ship out to you. We'll get a hold of you and we'll send it out. So whoever sends in the most $50 super chats this month will get that jersey shipped out. For example, we have 3 people all in the mix. BJ Ward, Don Johnson, and my guy Poe. All of them have sent in one $50 super chat. When you send in a $50 super chat, we call that a fin. So those 3 have one fin. Open competition. We'll see ultimately who wins, but I did want to bring it up to the people once again. All right, let's move on to the next thing I want to talk about here, which is regarding the NFL draft, because the Dolphins still have need at corner, defensive line, safety, offensive line. 4 needs still had to be had. I want to know who is your favorite Dolphins draft target. Could be a sleeper in the 3rd, 4th round. Could be someone you want Chris Grier in this Dolphins front office to take in the 1st round at pick number 13. Get down in the comment section and let me know what prospect you got your eyes on. We'll talk a lot about the draft today, so I'll reserve my thoughts on what player I would name until these segments that we get into. But I want to see what you guys say. Who is your favorite target? Don't even say for the Dolphins. Who is your favorite draft prospect? And you can't say someone from Texas because you're a Texas.
Oh, I'm not going to say that.
Okay.
That's tough. 1st round or just in general?
In general. Any player you're just like, you know what? I like the way that guy plays. I think he's going to be good.
I like all the running backs. I like Caleb Johnson. I like Amarion Hampton. Not a fan of Henderson. I'm more of a Quinton Junkins guy. A lot of DBs. Can't say Barron. Said that already.
Yeah, can't say Barron. No Texas.
Not a fan of Will Johnson.
Yeah, you say he's too slow, right?
Well, we don't know.
And he's not running at his pro day, by the way, because he's got a hamstring injury.
Exactly. So, but I do think he is a slower corner. So, not a fan of that. But I like all the D linemen, honestly. Harmon from Oregon.
Okay.
That would be really fun to have.
Now, I like Derek Harmon as well, but I think 13 is a little too rich for him. But if the Dolphins were picking like 18 to 24, I'd be very interested in Oregon. Did Derek Harmon trade back potentially? I've been very open about mine. My favorite is Malaki Starks. I think he is one of the most no doubt, he's going to be a good NFL player type of guys. Like, I truly believe that. I know safeties are undervalued, but I really like Malaki Starks. He's fluid. He can cover. He can make plays in the run game. I would be very, very happy if the Dolphins picked him at 13. Now, are they going to do that? I don't know. Like I mentioned, defensive line, offensive line, corners are valued more than safeties. And since those are also positions of need, I could see Miami going in that direction with the 13th pick. But I would absolutely be ecstatic if it was Malaki Starks. He is, if I had to just say, no doubt, put my life on the line for one of these prospects that isn't one of the top, like, guaranteed 5 picks to be a stud, it would be Malaki Starks. You want to talk about a stud? Shout out to my guy Frank O'Connor. $50 super chat from Frank saying, add me to that list. Also heard a rumor CeeDee Lamb requested a trade. Is there any truth to this? Also, no matter what, unless we get a better one, we need a safety round 1. So Frank is kind of with me here, where he would like to see one of Malaki Starks, Nic Rohloff, or Jahdae Barron potentially being that pick at number 13. I don't disagree with the safety notion, Frank. I don't. Like, I like Melifonwu, I like Davis, but they can't be your 2 starting safeties. They could be your number 2 and number 3 safeties, and I would be fine with that because you have McMorris coming back for year 2, and you have Elijah Campbell returning as well, who's a versatile DB. But you need the draft one in the first 100 picks. You got 3 of them. You got one at 13, 48, and 98 right now. If the Dolphins don't draft a safety with one of those 3 picks, I'm going to be seriously concerned. Now, I could see them going O-line, D-line in round 1 and round 2, or corner D-line or corner trenches, whatever you want to say, and then going with a Jonas Sanker and Andrew Makuba with the 98th pick. Those 2 safeties are solid. Sebastian Castor from Iowa, Kevin Winston from Penn State. There are a lot of good options out there, but I would absolutely be happy, thrilled, through the moon with one of Starks, Barron, or Rohloff at pick 13. Rohloff might be a ceiling of pick 13, but this guy is a absolute athletic freak, which we'll talk about him later on in today's show. Barron's interesting. The reason why I say Jahdae Barron's interesting is because he is someone that has not played safety. He's been a corner at Texas. He played nickel corner. You said what was that one position they created for him? Because you watched a lot of them.
The star position, what Jalen Ramsey was playing at Los Angeles.
Wait, it's like almost like a nickel corner safety box hybrid, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, he has the versatility to play outside. He did it last year for Texas. He's played that position that Justin just mentioned. So, I think Barron could absolutely transition to safety and be a corner if Miami wanted to view him as a corner anyway. So, I like the versatility there with Jahdae Barron. Any of those 3, I'd be very thrilled with one of those picks. Frank, I'm writing you down right now. You're a legend, my friend. You know what, Frank? I think I'm going to take down a beer bong for you later in the show, too. I think so. We also got a $5 super chat from Frank O'Connor. The best defenses have a middle linebacker leading the front and a safety leading the back. We need a stud. Don't disagree with you there. I actually think Miami's fine at middle linebacker with Jordan Brooks, Tyrel Dodson, and them signing KJ Britt to a 1-year deal. Now, if they did not sign Tyrel Dodson back, I would have been very intrigued by Jihad Campbell from Alabama as a pick at number 13 to be one of those elite middle linebacker duos between Campbell and Brooks. But with Dodson and Britt rejoining this team and being on that depth chart, I would expect linebacker to not be something Miami addresses in round 1. But I could absolutely see them going with a linebacker in the middle rounds. Remember, Miami has 2 4th-round picks, 2 5th-round picks, 3 7th-round picks. Could absolutely see the Dolphins going linebacker with one of those. One of those I like a lot in the middle rounds, Jay Higgins from Iowa, good cover linebacker. That's an intriguing thought as well. All right, so Justin, what we're going to do here, I want to actually celebrate Frank O'Connor sending in $55 super chats. Really, really appreciate it. How about you hop on stream, tell the people why they should like the video, and I'll go grab a beer bong real quick.
Okay.
That would be very helpful, as we have 95 people watching, yet only 22 likes. Hit that thumbs up icon if you want the real show to start, because we got a loaded show here. I'm going to go grab a beer bong for Frank O'Connor.
All right, this is why y'all should like the video. It helps push the video to more Dolphins fans that would be interested in watching this stream. And quite honestly, I think it's going to be a good show. A lot of good content. First segment, and I mean, Rolly's going to give the rundown, but first segment is about a special free agent the Dolphins signed, and then it's draft the rest of the way. So we got a lot of content surrounding the draft, specifically mock drafts from both Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah, Rolly's own mock draft. So a lot of Dolphins draft discussions, and I mean, quite honestly, that's really good considering that, like I said earlier, I think the Dolphins did a decent job of not filling every hole. Obviously, there's still a ton of holes. But I think everybody could agree before they signed James Daniels that it had to be an old lineman from the jump. Now, I think he can go safety. I think he can go corner. So, not just old line. It could be one of those three positions with your first pick. And I think that opens up a lot of opportunities to get better, quite honestly. Because I think you're going to get a good player at 13. There's too many good players in the draft. I know a lot of people talk about the top end not being as top heavy, but you're going to get a lot of starters, I think, all the way until 20.
Yeah, appreciate that, Justin. And you mentioned getting a good draft pick at pick 10, or 13. Think about this. Assuming that both Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders go inside the top 10 or top 10, that means the Dolphins will then get one of the top 11 guys outside of the quarterback position. But then when you start to eliminate some needs that aren't there, so like Miami doesn't need to draft a running back. Ashton Jeanty will go in the top 13. So now you take him away. So now you're down to 10 positions that you want. So if you're ranking tight end, if you want Tyler Warren, sure. But defensive line, offensive line, safety, corner, linebacker, it doesn't matter. The Dolphins will stack those 10 players on the board, and they'll get one of their top 10 guys at 13 because you expect to have two quarterbacks in Ashton Jeanty come off the board. So you're getting a top 10 player on your board, like 4 positions of need. And maybe they would have Jeanty, Ward, and Shedeur in their top 10. They might have that, but it's not positions of need. So that's where it's beneficial to Miami. All right, you heard Justin. We need to get 100 or 50 likes before we get the show started. We have 100 people watching. We need 16 more likes. Hit that thumbs up icon because who else is providing Dolphins commentary, analysis, and breakdowns every day while also taking down some beer bongs to have some fun. And we have a loaded show. I'll do the beer bong first, and then we'll tell you what's on the show. Shout out to Frank O'Connor. Appreciate the $50 super chat, my friend. Ugh. Shout out to you, Frank. It's always the coldness that gets me. Today's show will get started when we get to 50 likes. We're 14 away. Dolphins news, kind of rumor-ish type of video where we're talking about one signing that the Dolphins had that I don't think many people in Miami are talking about, many people in the NFL world are talking about, that is going to be a true difference maker for this Dolphins football team. We'll also have a Dolphins mock draft roundup. Mel Kiper from ESPN, Daniel Jeremiah from NFL Network both released their initial mock drafts after the first wave of NFL free agency. We'll break down what 2 prospects they had selecting because they did not have the Dolphins taking the same position nor the same player. And then I will do my mock draft. So we'll look at Mel Kiper. We'll look at Daniel Jeremiah. I'll do my mock draft as well. And then I'll also take a look at the top 10 draft targets for the Miami Dolphins after this initial wave of NFL free agency as well. So a lot of draft talk today as there isn't a lot of buzz out there surrounding NFL free agency with the Miami Dolphins. But like I said, we got to get the 50 likes before we start today's show. We're at 41, 9 likes away. Hit that thumbs up icon if you want us to get into our first segment. Break down everything surrounding this Dolphins football team. Who's going to be the 9 people to step up and get today's show started? Who are going to be those 9? Who are going to be those 9? Steve says if Shedeur Sanders is there at 13, would you take him? I saw Joe Shad put out an article. It was an opinion article that the Dolphins should consider that at 13 if he's there. I understand the thought process through that, but boy, I would probably not. I probably wouldn't. I wouldn't. All right, we're 5 likes away. Come on. Who's going to be the 5 people to get us to 100? Alex already liked. Luke already liked. Like the safety from South Carolina, Nic Rohloff. Yeah, he is actually scheduled to have a top 30 visit for the Miami Dolphins. 4 likes away. 4 likes away. Come on. Who are the 4 people that are going to do it for us? Who are going to be the 4? You know what? If you are one of the 4 people to hit the like button, type me in the chat as well. I want to know who the real ones were that get us to 50 likes. Who is going to be that person? Who is it going to be? Who is it going to be here? Come on. There we go. We got the 52 likes. Shout out to Meg Gallo. Shout out to my guy Carter Reimer. All typing those me's. All right, let's get into the first segment on today's show. The signing that nobody is talking about, or not enough people are talking about, as being a difference maker for the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins pulled off highway robbery during the first week of NFL free agency when they signed wide receiver Nic Westbrook-Ikhine from the Tennessee Titans on a 2-year, $6.3 million deal. I wanted to go in depth and look at how he will impact this Dolphins roster because I certainly think it is going to be more than what people think. I'm Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. This is my favorite signing in free agency. I want to know yours. Who is your favorite signing that Chris Grier made, the newest member of the Miami Dolphins? Get down in the comments section and type which player the Dolphins signed that made you the most excited when you saw that notification pop up. As I mentioned, for me, it's Nic Westbrook-Ikhine. I love James Daniels, the right guard that Miami signed to a 3-year, $24 million deal, taking him from the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's going to be a really good fit in the Dolphins, and I labeled him as one of the top offensive line targets the Dolphins could look at in NFL free agency. Someone I projected for a while, but I never projected the Dolphins or thought of them as a kind of suitor for Nic Westbrook-Ikhine. He wasn't on my radar, and boy, was I stunned when that signing was announced, and I was happy to see that be announced because he becomes that wide receiver 3 for the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Nic Westbrook-Ikhine. You also have Malik Washington in this group as well. I really like the starters that Miami are going to put across. It's got a really good blend of speed, physicality, red zone threat, deep threats. It's just got a great blend. It's got a gadget guy in Malik Washington as well. Like, the Dolphins needed a guy like Nic Westbrook-Ikhine. Like, what do I mean by needing him? Well, last year, the Dolphins wide receiver room was arguably the smallest in terms of stature in the entire NFL. Tyreek Hill's about 5'9", 5'10". He's a really small guy. Jalen Waddle's about 5'10", 5'11". He's not across that 6-foot threshold. OBJ was right there at 5'11", 6 feet tall, but he never even played for the Miami Dolphins. And Malik Washington, a gadget guy, like 5'8", 5'9". Like, the biggest wide receiver you had was River Craycraft. Westbrook-Ikhine is 6'2", 211, so he's going to provide you with a physical outside type of guy that can also be a red zone threat. This is also a big play machine. Over the past 4 seasons where he's been an actual weapon used by the Tennessee Titans, he's been consistently someone who doesn't get a ton of targets. Don't expect him to command 50 receptions a year or really even more than 500 yards because he hasn't eclipsed that total in his career. But he is someone that will be effective in the run game. He will be effective in the red zone and be a good threat for this Dolphins offense. And the part that makes me the most excited about adding Westbrook-Ikhine, and this is some geek stuff here when it comes to the Dolphins football, but he's an excellent blocker. And that's something that we know is required to be and to have in a Mike McDaniel system. McDaniel expects that his wide receivers can block. He comes from that Kyle Shanahan tree. You look at what San Francisco's offense requires. They need run blockers. You look at what their 3 wide receivers did over the past couple of years in Juwan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. All of them are willing and able to run block. And although I think Hill, Waddle, they try, I don't think they're the best run blockers of all time. Nic Westbrook-Ikhine, to me, is someone that is physical, hard-nosed, ready to get into the thick of things and put his body on the line. In 2022, he was the 6th highest graded run blocking wide receiver in the entire NFL. It's declined over the past couple of seasons, but you saw how effective he was in 2021 and 2022, which is why I think he is going to be a wide receiver that is on the field a lot more than you think. I know Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is just a wide receiver 3 on the Dolphins. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle are going to still dominate most of the target share and the percentage of snaps. But when you get inside the 20-yard line and you are looking to run the football to the outside on tosses, on stretches, on end arounds, Westbrook-Ikhine will be on the football field because he likes to block. He is a physical guy. Westbrook-Ikhine, when you combine his ability to make plays in contested catch situations, which we'll dive into those numbers in a second, as well as block, is going to be a fan favorite in Miami and someone that this Dolphins coaching staff will like quite a bit as well. And make sure you are subscribed because we have Dolphins breakdowns every single day. We talk about Miami Dolphins football twice a day as well, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sunday, one video, mock draft, draft rumors, news, breakdowns, everything you could possibly need around the Dolphins. Hit that sub button. All right, I wanted to go into some advanced statistics on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine now because we talked about the run blocking and we looked at the macro statistics. But how about this? Nick Westbrook-Ikhine had a 28.1% touchdown rate last season. That was the highest touchdown percent rate by a full 7%. What do I mean by that? Well, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine last year had 9 touchdowns, which was tied for 8th in all of football, by the way, and he had 32 receptions. So when you do the math and divide 9 by 32, that he had a touchdown almost every 3 receptions, which came out to a 28% rate. And the second highest rate in the NFL last year for a wide receiver that received 50 or more targets was actually a rookie, Jalen McMillan, from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So this is someone that when he got targeted and caught the ball, made things happen, but also just showcases to you how he is a true red zone threat. Is he going to be someone that is going to put up 80 yards a game and moves you from your 20-yard line to the opposing 20-yard line? No, but he is going to be good for, every 4 or 5 game, 35, 40-yard catch down the field, stretching the defense. And he is going to be consistently used in red zone packages. Like, this is a really big addition for the Dolphins offense. I mentioned the height multiple times on today's show, but that 6'2", 211-pound frame is truly something Miami desperately needed at the position. And we talk about that frame because it allows him to be a good contested catch guy. Last season, he had a contested catch percentage rate of 57.1. Now, it wasn't a lot of targets because you don't really get true contested catch opportunities that often. He had 14 opportunities. He caught 8 of them. That ranked 27th out of 84 wide receivers with 50-plus targets. So not only did he have the number 1 touchdown percent rate in the NFL last season for wide receivers that had 50 or more targets, but he ranked in the top half in contested catch percentage as well. This is a very big-time addition for Miami. And let's keep hammering home those advanced stats because I love them. The average depth of target for Nick Westbrook-Ikhine last year was 12.8 yards down the field, 21st out of 84. All of these statistics are out of 84 wide receivers, by the way. His drop percentage, 8.6%. Once again, ranking inside the top half of NFL wide receivers. And we know that's something Miami actually struggled with last year. Tyreek Hill, partially because of that wrist injury, had a little bit of a drop issue. Jalen Waddle, uncharacteristically, really struggled with drops in some of those games down the stretch. And when Nick Westbrook-Ikhine was targeted, the QB rating when targeted, 103.9. You guessed it, top half in football once again. So as I've consistently shown throughout this video to this point, he is top half in almost every advanced metric, and I know the raw statistics won't be there for you, but in a Tennessee Titans offense that lacked passing ability with Will Levis and Mason Rudolph and company, Westbrook-Ikhine made the most of his opportunities and will be an unbelievable addition to this Dolphins offense. And we're going to round out the show here in just a second, but make sure you do get your Dolphins jerseys. It's never too early to grab them for the upcoming season. Chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. Links in the description and comments of today's video on sale, whether you want Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, Tua Tagovailoa, Devon Achane. Maybe you want to get a Nick Westbrook-Ikhine jersey. I'm not going to stop you. I actually would respect it quite a bit if you did get his jersey. Either way, like I mentioned in the description in the comments of today's video, chatsports.com/Dolphins jersey. All right, so with the additions that Miami have had so far in NFL free agency, this is where things stand with the Dolphins' weapons. You've got those top 4 wide receivers on the left side of your screen of Hill, Waddle, Westbrook-Ikhine, and then Malik Washington, who will be still used in the slot, still be used as a gadget guy. But then on the right side, you got the 3 running backs currently on the roster, and Devon Achane, Jalen Wright, and the short yardage guy, Alexander Madison. We know Jalen Wright and Achane, both very solid in the run game, explosive, but also excellent weapons in the receiving game as well. And then Jonnu Smith coming back for his final season under contract, obviously set the single season record for the Dolphins franchise in receptions and receiving yards. I'm excited to see him again next season. Listen, I know it's hating to say this, but the if word has to be thrown around, and there are a couple big ifs here. But if the Dolphins can solidify that left guard spot and complete their offensive line, and Tua Tagovailoa is able to be more close to his 2023 form where he played 17 games in a full season rather than 2024 and 2021 when he played in 22 when he played 11 and 12 games respectively, I am going to be in love with this Dolphins offense. I know there's a question mark with Patrick Paul, projected to be your starting left tackle, but Aaron Brewer at center, James Daniels right guard, Austin Jackson at right tackle is fine by me. You get that starting left guard figured out. You have Tua, right, Achane, the 4 wide receivers we mentioned in today's show, and the tight end in Jonnu Smith. Yeah, I think this Dolphins offense is going to be right back to where it was in 2023, where it was a top 10 unit, rather than in 2024, when it was a bottom half unit. I know injuries caused a part in that, but I'm very bullish on this Dolphins offense if it can stay healthy. But let me know your thoughts. Grade the Dolphins offense. And we don't want rookies here. Scale it. 1, 2, 10. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Scale this Dolphins offense how you feel. Like I mentioned, I like where things are at, but it's not finalized. Right now, I'm grading the Dolphins offense at a 7.3. The reason why it's where it's at is because I love the weapons. I think Tua can hopefully stay healthy, but that left guard spot is still a massive question mark for me. Yeah, they signed Larry Bourman for ANC. They brought back Liam Eichenberg, which made me very, very upset. That's the reason why I'm getting held back a little bit. Because if Chris Grier, which I don't think it's a 0% chance, believes that Larry Bourman and Liam Eichenberg can be a good left guard rotation kind of group and duo this upcoming year, well, then I'm going to be very disappointed and feel very ill things towards this offensive line and this Dolphins offense as a whole. But if they draft one in the first 2 rounds, / sign another veteran in free agency out there like Will Hernandez or Brandon Scherf or Tevin Jenkins, well, now we're excited, and this number will jump closer to 8.5 and potentially even reaching the 9 grade, in my opinion. But we'll see. And anything that happens this offseason, we'll have you covered. Like I mentioned, whether it's news, whether it's rumors, whether it's breakdowns of what the Dolphins are doing in free agency and specific player breakdowns, we will have you covered here at the channel. So hit that sub button right now. All right, 1 segment down, 1 segment in the books. And I want to revisit this question since I wasn't able to really look in the chat and see what you guys were saying. But who was your guys' favorite Dolphins signing in free agency? I just did a full video breaking down why Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is my favorite signing, but I want to know your favorite signing down in the comment section. Joey is saying Ashtyn Davis and James Daniels. I haven't seen a lot of people mention Ashtyn Davis as their favorite. 1-year, $2.5 million deal. I think he's going to be a good ball player. Probably a third safety. What's up, Double S? How you doing? What's up, Elwood? How y'all doing today? Let me know which free agent signing was your favorite. Let me know. Let me know. The Samoan safety. Wow. That's crazy. I know you guys don't care. This is college basketball. Darren DeFries is expected to potentially become the next Indiana basketball head coach. He left Drake to go coach West Virginia. West Virginia gets snubbed from the tournament, should have been in, and now one and done at West Virginia to go to Indiana. That's crazy. Brick says the Samoan safety. Are you talking about Ashtyn Davis or Ifeatu Melifonwu? Tito says new OG, a.k.a. James Daniels. Chargers just signed Andre James. One of the top centers out there. Released by the Raiders. Elwood said nickname is Iffy. I feel like nickname Iffy if you can't pronounce Ifeatu, but I've kind of nailed it down so many times. I've said it so many times.
And he also kind of hurt, man. So
he does get hurt quite a bit.
Iffy, the play.
Maybe that's why it's.
I think that's what he's saying.
Maybe that's why it's his nickname. I'm getting cracked up. Double S says excited about Stonehouse. We needed a good punter. Listen, it has not officially been announced that they're releasing Jake Bailey, but there's absolutely no reason to carry two punters into training camp in this offseason program. And as I've mentioned a couple times, we would save $1.9 million in cap space by releasing Jake Bailey. He has not any guaranteed money this year. You'd only have a $500,000 cap hit if you release Jake Bailey. So I don't know what's stopping us from releasing Jake Bailey right now and just rocking with Ryan Stonehouse. Stonehouse worked with our new special teams coordinator, Craig Aukerman, in Tennessee. Remember, he was a rookie in 2022, was a second-team All-Pro, and set records in terms of average yard per punt. I'm really excited about Ryan Stonehouse to be the punter in Miami this year. But we'll just see when Jake Bailey is released. Did the first one disappear?
Yeah, give me a second.
All right, it's coming back.
There it goes.
It's coming back. Coming back. Why do they keep Liam, Glenn? Beats me, man. Beats me. Elwood says no, he calls himself Iffy all of his life. Well, I don't mind having the nickname Iffy. I don't mind. But we did get a $50 super chat from my guy, Poe. What's up, Poe? Just stopping by to show love, fam, at work at the moment. Poe, I appreciate you for coming by and stopping love. Poe, you get another fin, and you are now in the lead for the fin count. Remember, most $50 super chats gets a Dan Marino autographed jersey shipped out to them at the end of the month. We have 2 live shows left in the month. This one and next Tuesday. That's it. Because unless the Dolphins make a crazy trade, there'd be no reason for us to go live. So it's this week and next week, and we are now having Poe, a clear leader, with 2 $50 super chats. Appreciate you, Poe. Getting that Dan Marino jersey right now, it would only have cost Poe 2 $50 super chats. I mean, that's good value for a Dan Marino autographed jersey. So appreciate you, Poe. Appreciate you, Poe. All right. You're a legend, man. You really are. I love Poe. I've always said it. Poe's one of my favorite nicknames. You know what? I'll take a beer bong, too. I was contemplating it, but I'm going to do it. I'll do it here. Why not have a little fun on a Tuesday? Why not? Shout out to you, Poe. Ugh. All right. Appreciate you, Poe. Double S says, I doubt Will Johnson will fall to us. Well, it's interesting you say that because I think he will be there at 13. And the question is, will the Dolphins draft Will Johnson? Right now, we're going to look at Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah's most recent mock drafts. And we're going to see who the Dolphins took. Poe, appreciate you hopping in, saying what's up, and showing love. Legendary stuff from you, Poe. Have a good rest of your day and a good day at work. All right. Let's talk about it right now. NFL free agency is continuing on, but we have our first mock draft Fuck that. I got to start that over. That was terrible. I hated the way I started that. All right, reset. Here we go. Mock draft time here at the channel. We saw the first week of free agency come and go. Mel Kiper, ESPN, Daryl Jeremiah, NFL Network, both released their most recent NFL mock drafts after the initial wave of NFL free agency. Both of them had the Dolphins selecting different players and different positions with the 13th overall pick. So I want to break down both of those moves Miami could make in the draft. But before we get into that, make sure you're following us over on Instagram. Dolphins Today IG is our handle. We're posting more short form content over on our IG. You see the handle at the bottom of the screen. If you want more Dolphins coverage and content in between our YouTube videos, that's the place to find it. So go give us a follow right now. All right, we'll start with Mel Kiper of ESPN because he had the Dolphins selecting offensive lineman Will Campbell, the LSU O-lineman. And this is an intriguing player because many viewed him as the #1 offensive lineman very early in this NFL draft process. Then teams started to say, well, maybe this guy's actually a guard and not a left tackle like he was for 3 seasons at LSU. And then the combine happens. Armand Membu absolutely dominates the combine after having a really good final season in Missouri. And now he's projected to be the first offensive lineman off the board. And with the Bears making 3 moves on the interior offensive line and the Niners maybe going with Armand Membu, is there a world where Will Campbell slips to 13 for Miami? Well, before we talk about him more as a prospect, I did want to inform the people in the chat about what players Mel Kiper had the Dolphins passing on to select Will Campbell at 13 overall. These were the 5 best players on the board, in my opinion, that the Miami Dolphins could be looking at that they ultimately passed on. Will Johnson, Nic Rohloff, Derek Harmon, Jahdae Barron, and Malaki Starks. So all 3 of those defensive backs / corners, actually all 4 of them that are projected to go in the first round were still there. And Derek Harmon, the top defensive lineman in that range with Mason Graham off of the board, was still on the board as well. Now, with that being said, I like these 5 players, but if Will Campbell is there at pick number 13, I am not just turning in the draft card. I am not just running to the podium to tell Roger Goodell. I am full on sprinting. I'm trying to run that 40-yard dash that Devon Achane ran because Will Campbell, to me, would be a home run selection. Even if you sign a free agent kind of 1-year guy at left guard, like a Brandon Scherf, I would still contemplate taking Will Campbell with that pick if he was there at 13. And yes, the PFF grades will not be as pretty in 2024 as it was over the past couple of seasons for Campbell, but I have consistently mentioned this with this player. He is a 3-year starter at LSU. He came in as a true freshman, 18 years old, and started at left tackle at one of the most premier SEC schools in the entire country. That is very, very rare. And then became a team captain in 2023 and was another captain in 24. This guy screams leadership and screams toughness, which is something Miami could absolutely want and need on this offensive line. And as where things currently stand at the offensive line, that left guard spot absolutely needs to be filled. Teron Armstead's still technically on the roster, but it's anticipated he retires, and it's been reported that Miami's moving forward with Paul as their starting left tackle. You got Brewer, Daniels, and Jackson on that middle to right side. I like the middle to right side, but you need to fill out that left side, and I don't trust Larry Borum or Liam Eichenberg to be a starter, and if that's the case, I don't even know if I'm going to watch this upcoming season. Just kidding. But with Will Campbell, to me, he's a day 1 left guard. You could plug him in, and although he didn't play in college, his size profile fits that kind of scheme. He's a good athletic guy. He moved well at the NFL Combine as well, and I believe he would be an excellent fit in that zone scheme that Miami Dolphins run with Mike McDaniel's offense. Will Campbell, to me, would be a day 1 starter with versatility, potentially move outside in the future as well if Patrick Paul didn't work out or you wanted to move off of Austin Jackson and move Will Campbell to right tackle. To me, this is a home run pick if the Dolphins ended up having him on the board. But let me know your thoughts. Would you want to draft Will Campbell at pick number 13? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. It's the pinned comment on today's show. Type Y for yes, type N for no. All right, let's look at what Mel Kiper said on the selection. Kiper said that Miami should be focused on finding Armstead's heir apparent. Plus, this team ranked 28th in pass block win rate last season, 55.7%, so it needs upgrading anyway. Yes, Campbell's arm length comes into question. He measured at 32 and 5/8 inches at the combine, which isn't ideal for an NFL offensive tackle, but plenty of tackles start their careers at guards, and Campbell's great footwork points to successful career despite the length limitations. Now, I do agree with Will Campbell being able to move inside very easily and his footwork and technique allowing him to go back outside despite the short arm length if necessary. But I still think Mel is misinformed here, saying that the Dolphins need to find Armstead's heir apparent. I understand it's a hole, but you drafted Patrick Paul in the second round, a top 55 selection last season. He was the understudy to Armstead this past year and played in 3 games. Was it the most pretty 3 games of all time? No, I'm not going to act like he was perfect. But that is the scheduled and slated heir apparent to Tyrel Armstead. So I don't understand why Kiper believed that Campbell would be that guy. But I do think Chris Grier will love Will Campbell. One thing that Chris Grier does quite a bit when it comes to offensive linemen, he values versatility. We've seen it time in, time out. Liam Eichenberg. I know he's not a good ball player, but let's face the facts. He's played offensive tackle. He's played center, and he's played both left guard and right guard. And he still keeps on re-signing him. Can't quit him. He signed Isaiah Wynn in free agency, a versatile guy who's played outside and inside. Like Austin Jackson has also played guard and tackle in the NFL. He likes versatility. He likes the ability to have people play both guard and tackle. Will Campbell provides that. I expect him to be high on the Dolphins draft board in late April. All right, we're going to get to the other mock draft here in just a second, but we are sponsored by Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform out there. I play Prize Picks every single day, and hopefully you join me because, boy, is it a fun time of year to play daily fantasy sports. You have the professional basketball league coming down to the postseason. You have college basketball postseason beginning, baseball getting underway, hockey is here as well. You can combine all your favorite players from the different leagues and make your entry as customized as possible. Don't miss your chance to cash in as the league's best fight for playoff positioning. They also have weekly promotions like Taco Tuesday. I have an entry for college basketball, 3-player entry, games tip off today, so get started. More than Janai Broom, half a point, free entry from Prize Picks. Shout out to Janai Broom, likely going to be the player of the year in college basketball. More than John Polakaitis from Yale. More than Joe Bamisell from VCU, 3-pointers made, 3-player entry here. You can take my picks. You can take other people's picks. But join me and millions of others on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, Daniel Jeremiah. He released his mock draft as well. And he had the Dolphins going to the safety position, taking Georgia DB Malaki Starks with the 13th overall pick. This is someone that I really, really like, and I would be very, very happy with if he was the pick at 13 overall for the Miami Dolphins. And like we did with ESPN's Mel Kiper, I wanted to look at to see who the Dolphins passed on for this selection. And there is an interesting player that was on the board, Tyler Warren, the tight end from Penn State, who many people, including myself, believe is a top 10 lock. But in Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, he went 14th overall to the Indianapolis Colts, which Miami passed on him. They also passed on Will Johnson again, the corner from Michigan. They obviously passed on Nic Rohloff, the safety from South Carolina. But interesting enough, Jahdae Barron went ahead of Malaki Starks. Barron went in the top 12 picks of this mock draft. So the other players that the Dolphins passed on, Kelvin Banks and Derek Harmon, once again, Will Campbell was off the board in this mock draft from Daniel Jeremiah. We'll talk more about Starks and his potential fit, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel for daily Dolphins content, but also to take down the Jets report. We've been doing a sub battle with the Jets channel here at Chat Sports all week long. We're up early in this one, but we still got 3 or 4 days left in the week. Take advantage, hit that sub button for daily Dolphins content, but also we got to beat the Jets. I've liked Malaki Starks for a while, and I've consistently said that I think he is a no doubt starting caliber, a Pro Bowl caliber type of safety. I really do. Maybe I'm a little bit high on him, but I think if you take away positional value, which we know safeties are valued a bit lower compared to offensive line, defensive line, corner, wide receiver, other positions, I think Starks is a top 5 player in this class. He has the perfect ability to cover. His movement is so fluid. I watched him do safety drills at the Pro Day on video that Georgia hosted, which, by the way, Miami had Grier, McDaniel, and Anthony Weaver at. He just looked like a different ball player moving around. It like gliding through air almost. And his numbers backed it up in coverage, and he is able to make plays in the run game as well. He's a physical player in the box. I just could not be more excited with potentially adding Malaki Starks to this defense. I tell you what, if the pick for the Dolphins at 13 was Malaki Starks, I would have a Malaki Starks jersey ordered that night. Now, with that being said, though, I mentioned that the Dolphins passed on a certain player at 13 in this Daniel Jeremiah mock draft, being tight end Tyler Warren. I like Starks, and I know the tight end position isn't a major need for Miami. It would be hard to pass on Tyler Warren. We're talking about an absolute game changer at the position that would just overhaul your offense, because now you're running 2 tight end sets for the most part. Warren could block. He can be a dominant pass catcher over the middle of the field at tight end, and with Jonnu having 1 year left on his contract, well, you might ultimately want him to be his long-term replacement. But I would understand passing on Warren due to positional need at safety, because right now, this is where things stand at the safety room. You signed Ifeatu Melifonwu and Ashtyn Davis in free agency. I both view them as free safeties. Melifonwu started his career as a corner, transitioned to safety. Ashtyn Davis is a good free roaming safety as well. You have the 6th-round pick from last year, Patrick Morris, Jordan Colbert, and Elijah Campbell on this depth chart as well, but you need another safety. And I think needing a strong safety and a free safety is overrated. You don't need to pencil them into strong safety or free safety. You just need 2 safeties back there. And I think Miami still needs one. I like Davis, I like Melifonwu. But the truth is, I think at best they are a safety number 2 and a safety number 3. That also requires the 2 of them to stay healthy for the entire season. And that is something Melifonwu specifically has not been able to do. So drafting a safety in round 1, round 2, or round 3 is a necessity for Miami, unless they go out and sign a player like Julian Blackmon, who's still out in free agency, but I do not anticipate them doing it, even though I wish they did. They need to draft one. Starks is my top safety personally, and I would be happy with the pick at 13. So, we did 2 prospect breakdowns today, because that's what Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah had the Dolphins doing with the 13th pick. Which player would you prefer? Type WC if you'd like Will Campbell. Type MS if you would prefer Malaki Starks. I like Will Campbell. He's on the board. I think you draft him. I said that earlier. I think he would be my number 1 guy overall, just due to his ability to be a cornerstone on an offensive line for, I think, a decade plus. And I will be honest, I like Starks a lot, but if both him and Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan, are on the board, I would heavily contemplate taking Will Johnson. I know safety and corner are both needs, but Johnson was absolutely nails in 2023, battled injuries in 2024, still viewed as one of the top 2 or 3 corners in this draft, if not one. It's definitely 1 or 2. It's either him or Barron. I like Will Johnson a lot too. He could be your CB2 this year, but then take over Jalen Ramsey in the future. Either way, I think the Dolphins are in a good spot to draft a good player at pick number 13. And like I mentioned off the top, make sure you're following us over on Instagram. Dolphins Today IG is our handle. We break down Dolphins football even more on short form version and content outside of our YouTube videos. So go give us a follow on Dolphins Today IG right now. All right, let me know, which player would you prefer at pick number 13? I see Will Campbell, Starks, and then Elwood going outside the box, typing TW for Tyler Warren. I see Tristan saying Will Johnson. So some of you guys aren't even answering my question. Y'all are going with a different player. Elwood's going outside the box with Tyler Warren. Tristan's going outside the box with Will Johnson. I understand that, but if you had the pick between these 2, which one would it be? Which one would it be? Which player, Justin, do you think the Dolphins should draft? As the roster is currently constructed, now, granted, signings may be made going from now until April. But as things currently stand, both those players are on the board. Which one do they go with? And not predict it, but which one would you prefer?
Do I get to know my second-round pick?
No. No, you don't. We have pick 48, but just this, like we're on draft night here. Which one are we doing? Or which would you do?
I'll do Will Campbell. I think you can roll the dice into the second and maybe get a starting level safety. Obviously, he probably won't be a star. But I think you can get that offense humming again if you took Will Campbell and you're ready to go, barring Tua's health the rest of the way.
Well, I do agree with that because I understand the reasoning for passing on safety in the first round at 13 because of positional value, but as well as that is probably one of the deepest positions in this draft. When people talk about what the deepest positions at this draft is, it's running back, it's tight end, it's defensive line, and safety. Those are the 4 best ones. Now, you're talking day 3 safeties, it gets sketchy, but inside the first 120 picks, is there that much of a difference between Xavier Watts, who's the top second-round safety, and Andrew Makuba, who go in the 3rd round, or Jonas Sanker from Virginia? So I do understand the reasoning if people are going to tell you, pass on safety first round, go corner, go O-line, go defensive line, and then try to find one of those safeties in rounds 2 or 3. I understand that thought process, but I just really like Malaki Starks.
I mean, it's pretty scary if you look at the 2nd and 3rd round O-line.
I agree. The interior offensive line specifically. Couple offensive tackles I don't hate out there. Belton from NC State. The guy from Minnesota, I'm spacing on his name. I do like the guy from Arizona who's a tackle guard hybrid. I think his name's Jonah Savaya, something like that. Yeah. I would like him potentially as a pick at 48 if he was available. One of the top offensive linemen on the interior, Gray Zabel, seems like he's trending more and more towards the end of the first round, which is unfortunate. You obviously have Tyler Booker, but I don't think he's a fit for Miami due to his inability to get out in the perimeter in that zone scheme. He's just not as athletic as a guard I think is required. It's interesting, though. It's very interesting. I'm fascinated to see over the next 2 months how this plays out as we get to late April, which is, by the way, crazy. Because you really think in the top of your head, when you look at the offseason for the NFL, you think the draft is the last week in April. Free agency starts right at the beginning of March. There's a lot of time in between. But you really think about it, we're 4 weeks away from the draft week. It's crazy how much the NFL schedule moves. It's paced out so perfectly where it's like the NBA, I can go on and on about this. The draft being 3 days after the finals. If it goes to 7, and then free agency starting 4 days after that, it's you just get overloaded with NBA offseason. But NFL, it's perfectly spaced out.
I don't know, man. I've been fiending for the draft since December. So it can't get here sooner rather than later, in my opinion.
Yeah. We did get a $5 super chat from Wasim Khan. Whatever you do, don't sign Tevin Jenkins. It's his back, and he has had that problem since college. He's always hurt. Well, that's awkward because I did a video that I put out earlier this morning about how I would sign Tevin Jenkins. I would. I really would. I mean, I know it's a gamble because of the injury history. But if you sign Tevin Jenkins to a 2-year, $14 million deal, which I think is pretty good value for a player of his caliber when he's actually playing Wasim, you still have Liam Eichenberg. I know it's sad to say, but you have Larry Borom and Liam Eichenberg, so it's you have capable depth and backups. I don't know. I would take the shot on Tevin Jenkins. And then what you can do is draft another guard in the 2nd or 3rd round. You don't have to do it in the 1st round and have him back up Tevin Jenkins. Give me a second. I had to respond to something real quick. Yeah, I mean, that's what I see, man. That's what I see. Exactly. Michael, I'm with you too. I'm with you on that. With you there. That's why, Tristan, that's why I've kind of been hinting at me really liking Will Johnson as well. I mean, that's why I like that. Which will take us into our third segment here on today's show. We just reacted to the 2 mock drafts from Daniel Jeremiah and Mel Kiper. Now I am going to do my first mock draft. 8th mock draft for the Miami Dolphins this offseason, or just in total. But it's the first one since NFL free agency, so let's do it. Mock Draft 8.0 time. I'm Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. This is the 8th mock draft I've done for the Dolphins for the 2025 draft, but it's the first one that I'm doing after the initial wave of NFL free agency where the Miami Dolphins made 16 total signings. They addressed many different positions, but there are still a lot of needs for Miami. And I've always said I don't think real mock drafts can begin until after free agency because then we have a clear knowledge of what team needs actually are. And with the Miami Dolphins, I think these are where the needs lie. Defensive line and cornerback are, to me, are 1A, 1B. The Dolphins right now, as we are filming, have one defensive lineman on the roster. That's Zach Sealer. At corner, yeah, they have Cam Smith, Ethan Bonner, and Storm Duck as depth, but you do not have a starting caliber outside corner opposite of Jalen Ramsey whatsoever. Kader Kohu is likely going to be your nickel corner, but you don't have an outside one. That's an issue. Left guard is the final spot on the offensive line that you need to fill. You do have left tackle, center, and right guard and right tackle figured out right now, but you also need a starting safety and a tight end too, but that comes down pretty much down the list. But those 4 positions here is the biggest need for Miami, and without a doubt. And I'll tell you what, folks, if you want a mock draft for the Miami Dolphins every single week until the draft, which is crazy to say, only about 5 weeks away, like the video, show me that you are appreciative of our draft content, hit that thumbs up icon. All right, the first pick that we make here, it's going to be an interesting one. I'm going corner, going Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan. Listen, I think Johnson is a very talented guy, and with the need that Miami has at corner, I think it makes a lot of sense if he's there when the Dolphins are picking in late April. Johnson had an unbelievable 2023 campaign where he stayed healthy and helped lead that Wolverine team to a national championship behind their elite defense. He's a ball-hawking corner as well. He turns the ball over, allowed no touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. Completion percentage was incredible. And look at that QB rating, man. Under 55 QB rating in each of the last 2 seasons. Will Johnson was an absolute stud for Michigan over the past 2 seasons. Now, he has dealt with injuries. He's had hamstring injuries. I think he's had an ankle injury. But to me, it's a win-win to draft Will Johnson with the 13th overall pick. Why is it a win-win? Well, you need to fill the CBT2 role on this roster, so he fills that. Jalen Ramsey and Will Johnson. Set it in stone. Those are your 2 outside corners in 2025. But Jalen Ramsey is getting closer and closer to 30 years old and likely will be on his last contract with the Dolphins, as I would probably project, which is right now. So now you have your cornerback one of the future when Jalen Ramsey is inevitably retired or he inevitably gets released from the Dolphins when its contract gets closer and closer to ending. So to me, it's a win-win. I don't see the downside of drafting Will Johnson. The only reason why I think people could be upset at this selection is because they passed on an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. But as a player, I would have Will Johnson as my number 1 true overall corner. He can play outside. He's got good length, 6'2". I know there's concerns about his speed, and he's not running at his pro day, which is kind of disappointing, and he didn't run at his combine either due to that hamstring injury, so no one knows what his true straight line speed is. But if the Dolphins feel comfortable about that and they don't see him as someone who's going to get burnt toast every possession, I like Will Johnson. But let me know, be the GM for me. What position, should Miami draft in round 1? Get down in the comment section and let me know what position, not player, what position. All right, we're actually going to stay in the secondary here in round 2, pick number 48. I'm going with safety Xavier Watts out of Notre Dame. I really like Watts quite a bit, and this is a player that I've mock drafted to the Dolphins multiple times already through my first 7 mock drafts, and I think is going to be consistently linked to Miami with the 48th overall pick this entire process, because he is not going to go in round 1. He will be a second-round pick, and he was absolutely elite in coverage for the Fighting Irish in 2024. I mean, are you kidding? A 30 QB rating, 6 interceptions, 16 PBUs. I mean, the completion percentage barely over 50%. Watts was absolutely incredible. He has incredible ball skills as well. And to me, if you do not go safety in round 1, Xavier Watts is probably my top round 2 target. I know there are going to be a lot of people saying Tyler Booker in round 2 or one of these top-tier defensive linemen. But assuming, like I said, you don't address safety with Starks, Barron, or Emenwari at pick 13, Watts is going to be my top guy in round 2. And it's because of those elite ball skills. I mean, he had 6 interceptions last year and 16 PBUs, and it becomes from his background. He was actually recruited from Notre Dame as a wide receiver. That is what he played in high school. And then his first season at Notre Dame, he played wide receiver as well. And then they're like, well, we don't really see you as an elite Division I wide receiver anymore. And if you want to make it to the NFL, maybe you should transition to defense. Well, he did, and now he's one of the top safeties out there, free roaming, ball hawker, really like Xavier Watts for Miami. In round 3, we're going to stay with the defense. We're going to go defensive line, CJ West, the big fella up front, coming out from Indiana with the 98th pick. CJ West has been an experienced ball player. He played just 1 season in Power 5 football. He transferred into Indiana after 3 seasons for Kent State. He is not someone that is anticipated to be a unbelievably good pass rusher. Yeah, he had 20 pressures in 3 out of the 4 seasons, but to me, this is someone that is going to help clog up that interior defensive line and be more effective in the run game. I project him as a bigger nose tackle. He is a massive human being, not in height and not in really like length either, but in just girth and stature. This guy is a unit. He's 6'2", 317 pounds, and when he got transitioned from the MAC at Kent State to the Big Ten at Indiana, you might think, well, maybe his numbers dipped down. Not the case. His grades from Pro Football Focus and his advanced numbers took a bump up for that Indiana Hoosiers defense. He had an 88.1 run defense grade last season, a run stopping rate of 11.4%, and even he had a solid pass rusher rate of 10.1%. Both those percentages ranking in the top 10% percentile. CJ West is an intriguing day 2 prospect I've got my eye on in the top 100. The Dolphins need to address defensive line. I would expect them to actually draft multiple defensive linemen since they have 10 draft picks. CJ West is someone I've got my eye on. All right, we're going to continue in our mock draft here, but if you want the #1 NFL draft content revolving the Miami Dolphins, this is the channel for you. Hit that sub button, videos every single day. Currently have 68,200 subscribers. Let's get to 69K ASAP. All right, we're going to go to the offensive line in round 4, pick number 116, going with Willie Lampkin, the interior offensive lineman from North Carolina. Very polarizing prospect in terms of the offensive line. You might ask why. It's because of his size. He's only 5'11", 290, so many people are concerned with his kind of size and the thought of him just getting bullied by these unbelievably big offensive linemen. Like, for example, if he's your starting left guard, which I'm not drafting him to be your starting left guard, but if he was going up against 6'6", like Calais Campbell, like, would he be able to handle Calais Campbell? Would he be able to handle a player like Jalen Carter? Like, these are just examples here. But the thing that keeps on drawing me towards Willie Lampkin is that he's a gamer, man. He's unbelievable. He's a dog. His numbers last season were incredible, and they were actually really, really good for the North Carolina Tar Heels in 2023 as well. And then he went to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama, and balled out there too. He flashed. So many NFL prospect or any NFL scouts, beat reporters that were there just raved about Lampkin and how he stood out in one-on-one drills, in full team drills. Dude is a dog. He's undersized, but he doesn't let that define him. He's going to go out. He's going to give it his all. He's going to be as physical as possible. And due to his limited stature, he is very mobile for an offensive lineman, which, as we consistently mention, project him as someone the Dolphins could target because they need an athletic interior offensive lineman. Is he a day one starter? No. But if you signed a veteran offensive lineman, which I'm kind of going with here in this mock draft since we didn't take one until round 4, he would be a good understudy, a good depth piece that could also maybe be a center in the future as well. Second, fourth round pick for Miami, we're going to go with Damian Martinez, the running back from Miami, which is going to make a lot of you guys at home very, very excited. A physical running back who's 5'11" in height, barely underneath 6 foot, but he's physical. He's very similar to Alexander Mattison, who the Dolphins signed to be their RB3, who is 5'11", 220. Martinez, similar size, you see it there, but ran for 1,000 yards this last season for the Hurricanes. And he actually showcased a surprise speed to me at the NFL Combine. His RAS number, pretty good, 9.32. And his 40-yard dash at 4.51 for someone of his size and weight was very, very enticing to me. And yeah, Martinez is similar to Alexander Mattison, but you signed Mattison on a 1-year deal. So you draft Martinez on day 3 of the draft. You have him be your RB4, which Miami usually carries 4 running backs, and then he'll be your physical short yardage back going into the future after this season. In round 5, we're going to go with the tight end from Clemson, Jake Brenningstool, who the Dolphins actually met with at the NFL Combine, which is why you subscribe, because he spoke on that, and we shared that information when that came in. Brenningstool is a very big tight end, 6'5" and 5'8", 241, was solid in Clemson last season, 7 touchdowns, 530 yards. Brenningstool would be a solid, fight for the roster type of guy. Better receiver than a Julian Hill, I think, already if he came in. Athletic profile stood out to me as well. Liked what he showed at the Combine, his 40-yard dash. But, man, I do expect Miami to draft a tight end, whether it be in day 2 or day 3. Brenningstool is a solid option early day 3, in my opinion, to have him compete with Julian Hill and Pharaoh Brown for that tight end 2 role. All right, we're going to continue on with our mock draft, but take advantage of this deal right now. Chatsports.com/Dolphins Gray Shirt. This Nike tee is $5 off, usually $35. You can get it right now for $30. One more time, go to chatsports.com/Dolphins Gray Shirt. Link is in the description and comments of today's video. Take advantage right now. All right, let's move over to the round 5 selection here, where I'm going Kyle McCord. I have consistently said that the Dolphins will need to draft a quarterback in day 3 to be that developmental third QB. McCord is someone I know Dolphins fans want, and I am starting to like more and more. He just put up ridiculous numbers for the Orangemen this past season. They had a disappointing 2023 year with the Ohio State Buckeyes, was ran out of town. They brought in Will Howard. McCord goes to Syracuse and just put up disgusting numbers. 4,800 yards, basically, 34 touchdowns, air raid offense for the Cuse, and was solid. I think he is someone Miami would like. He's going to be in that tier of quarterbacks of like Dylan Gabriel, Quinn Ewers, Tyler Shuck, potentially Curtis Rourke from Indiana, that Miami may be targeting in day 3 of the NFL draft to be that developmental guy that fits this Dolphin system. I like McCord quite a bit. All right, our first 7th round pick here. Actually, we're just going to unveil all 3 here. I forgot we did this. Malachi Moore, Timothy McKay, and Cam Miller. We go back to the safety realm with Malachi Moore, which is so interesting with Malachi Moore because I've seen him potentially going in late day 2, early day 3 to late day 3. So I'm unsure of where he's going to go, but I've mock draft Moore the Dolphins quite a bit. McKay is a 7th round dart throw at the offensive line. And then Cam Miller, the corner from Penn State, why not bring another corner in here and compete? Because you can never have enough DBs. You can never have enough offensive linemen. You never could have enough safety. So not going to break down 7th round picks too in depth here because they're just guessing games at this point, but the Dolphins did meet with Malachi Moore at the Combine. We do know that. I reported about that as well. All right, you saw the mock draft, 10 picks. Grade it for me down in the comments section. A, B, C, D, or F. No holding back. Let me know your thoughts on how I did when I mock drafted these 10 players to joining the Miami Dolphins roster. And make sure you do subscribe because, like I mentioned, we'll be the #1 spot for NFL draft content surrounding the Dolphins leading up to that late April draft. Mock drafts almost every single week. News, rumors, top 30 visits, whole 9 yards. Hit that sub button right now. Wow, good results early, Justin. I feel like I've done a couple mock drafts live. I think that's the third time I've done a mock draft on a live show in the offseason. I've never seen 3 straight A's. That's people are happy.
I mean, we had that scenario that we talked about. You could easily get a safety in the second round. That could easily be a starter.
Yeah.
And you can go do whatever you want with that first round pick.
Yeah. The man, the myth, the legend said A, loves it. BR says A. This is the best mock draft yet. Tristan says A+. Listen, I'm not going to try to act like that's the one-all, be-all, but you get your CB2 and your CB1 of the future and Will Johnson. You get your starting safety alongside Melifonwu and Davis and your hopeful starting safety for the next 4 seasons, as it is a 4-year deal. You get a defensive line nose tackle in rotation with hopefully Calais Campbell returning and Zach Sealer. You get an interior offensive lineman depth piece in Willie Lampkin, and then you fill out some fun players in the middle rounds with a tight end, a running back, a third-round quarterback. Like, it's fun.
Honestly, if the Pac-12 didn't fold, I think Damian Martinez would have been running back 4.
Interesting.
I don't think Miami used him the way that Oregon State was using them. I think it killed a little bit of his stock, at least for the media.
Yeah, Martinez is very solid. I know Miami fans very much appreciative of him. Very good. I'll say this, and I saw what Tristan says. Yeah, with that mock draft, that's me projecting the Dolphins sign another offensive lineman. Because I agree. With where things currently stand, you just can't wait till the 4th round to take a left guard. You can't. But I think Miami ultimately signs another one.
Willie Lampkin or Liam?
Oh, I just for the sake of not going insane and doing the same thing every offseason or every season with Liam Eichenberg, I'd go Willie Lampkin. All right, we got one more segment to go here. It's been a longer show here, but we got one more. And once again, we're talking NFL draft. We're looking at the updated draft target list. I will rank my draft targets for Miami 1 through 10 with potentially pick number 13. As I mentioned, the Dolphins are expected to get someone in a position of need on top 10 on their board. Who could it be? We'll discuss it here right now. I am Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports, and on today's show, we're going to look at the updated list of Dolphins draft targets for the first round in late April after the first couple weeks of NFL free agency. The Dolphins need a lot of additions to this roster. Defensive line, corner, left guard, safety. Those are the top 4 positions in my opinion, but they could also still use a tight end too. I like Pharaoh Brown. I don't like Julian Hill. But yeah, they could use a tight end too. Not as important as the other 4. But I did want to look at the updated first-round targets for the Miami Dolphins on this episode. And I want to make sure you are also following me over on Twitter first. At Nic_Rohloff is my handle. I want to give a shout-out to these 5 people. I said earlier this week that when you follow me on Twitter, I'll give you a follow back if you're one of the first 5. These were the 5 that did. Ernie Gonzalez, to his left arm, Justice305, Corey Spencer, and Tyler Foster. Shout out to the 5 of y'all for giving me a follow. And if you want more Dolphins news, rumors, and highlights, well, Nic_Rohloff is the handle. All right, the number 1 target for me with the Dolphins' 13th overall pick is Will Campbell, the offensive lineman from LSU. And I'll actually unveil the second one right away as well and talk about these 2 in a group. Armand Membu, the offensive lineman from Missouri. These are the 2 best offensive linemen in the draft, in my opinion. Both are offensive tackles at SEC levels last year, Campbell being a left tackle, Melifonwu being a right tackle, but both can be projected to be both offensive guards and offensive tackles in the NFL. And right now, as things currently stand, most NFL evaluators have Armand Melifonwu ahead of Will Campbell on their big boards, and some people believe Melifonwu might go top 5 in the draft. I've seen some mock drafts still have Melifonwu go around that 11, 12, 13 range, which is why I still have him on this list. But when you compare the two, you're going to think Melifonwu's the better player because of how well he performed last season. And I understand that. He played extremely well last year for that Missouri offense. And he showed unbelievable athleticism and fluidity at the NFL Combine, just putting up ridiculous numbers on the RAS score. And I do have Armand Melifonwu as my number one pure offensive tackle. I think he projects as a better offensive tackle than Will Campbell. But to me, when you're talking about who fits the Dolphins roster and scheme the best, I actually lean Will Campbell, which is why I had him as my number one Dolphins target rather than number two. I'm also factoring in a little bit the likelihood that they're ultimately there when the Dolphins are picking at 13. If I had to put a gun to my head and say, would any of these two players be on the board at 13 for Chris Grier, I would probably say no, because both of them will go in the top 12 in my opinion. But I do think Will Campbell is much more likely to slide down boards to Miami at 13. And I've said it very often, even if you sign another veteran free agent at left guard on a one-year deal, I would absolutely draft Will Campbell if he's still on the board for the Dolphins with the 13th pick. Let me know your thoughts. Which offensive lineman would you prefer if you're a Dolphins fan? Type WC if it's Will Campbell. Type AM if it's Armand Melifonwu. Moving over to my number 3rd prospect, it's actually going to be the corner from Michigan, Will Johnson. Dolphins need a boundary corner opposite of Jalen Ramsey in a bad way, and Will Johnson would fill that void, but also be your CB1 of the future when Ramsey is inevitably off this roster in 2 to 3 seasons. Johnson has just had a ridiculously good past 2 years for the Michigan Wolverines when he's been on the football field. That was the issue this past year for Johnson. If he stayed on the football field, didn't battle injuries, and play in 6 games, but then also ran at the combine and ran a 40-yard dash in the 4.4s or low 4.5s, I think he would be a top 10 lock. But due to the injuries and no combine or pro day, well, Will Johnson is sliding down boards because his 2023 tape was just ridiculous. He led that Wolverine secondary to a national championship, and coming into this past collegiate season, he was a projected lock to be in the top 5. And now there's a very high possibility he is on the board for 13. And based off mock drafts lately from Mel Kiper and Daniel Jeremiah, they expect Will Johnson to be there at 13 because the Dolphins passed on Will Johnson in both of those two experts' mocks. To me, I would not if Will Campbell and Melifonwu are off the board. I really like Will Johnson. Coming in at number 4 is another player that's been popularly linked to the Miami Dolphins, that being Malaki Starks, the safety from Georgia, who met with the Dolphins at the NFL Combine and at his pro day looked unbelievable in his drills. I mean, the hip movements, his ability to high point the football, even toe tap on the sideline when making a reception, how quickly he's able to flip his hips and accelerate. It's just a different type of athlete, man, and he would be a home run pick at 13 if you needed that safety position still. I think Starks is a top 5 player in this class, in my opinion. And, shoot me. I don't care. I'll die on this hill. I have no problem admitting this, that if you take away positional value, safeties are valued much lower than corners, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, wide receivers, quarterbacks, the whole 9 yard. You take away positional value and just say, how good is this player at their position, and how likely is it that this player will be a Pro Bowl or All-Pro at their position? I think Starks is going to be in my top 5 in that terms of likelihood. And I mentioned that pro day that Malaki Starks flashed at. Chris Grier, Mike McDaniel, and Anthony Weaver were all there watching in attendance. Also could have been for Mykel Williams and Jalen Walker, 2 first-round projections as well, but I really like Malaki Starks. And to me, when you talk about the first 4 players I've mentioned on today's show, Starks, Will Johnson, Melifonwu, Will Campbell. If any of those 4 names are called when the Dolphins are on the clock for pick number 13, I will be clapping, I'll be jumping, I'll be hyping up the chat in excitement. Because to me, you can't go wrong. You need a left guard, you need a safety, you need a corner, and those are 4 of the top players at the position. I would be thrilled if any of these 4 players are Dolphins at 13. And make sure you are subscribed for the draft because we will have you covered wall to wall now to late April for that draft. And you can guarantee another thing, folks. We will be live on an NFL draft day, reacting to the picks ahead of Miami, reacting to the Dolphins pick live, as well as breaking it down. So hit that sub button and join the channel today. Number 5 on my list, tight end Tyler Warren. And I know. It's not the biggest need for Miami. But this dude's a freaking freak. And he just really is. 6'5", 256, flashes physicality in the run game as a blocker, the athleticism to make catches over the middle of the field in a crowd, yards after catch, contested catch rate. There's a reason why, to me, there's very rare blue chip prospects. He's one of them. I have 3 blue chip prospects where, to me, there's just, you can't miss. Warren at tight end, Travis Hunter at whatever position you want to call him, and then Abdul Carter at edge. Those are my 3. I think Starks is on that fringe realm for safety, but Warren, dominating player, would just change your entire offense. He would. He would force you to have more 2 tight end looks, and he would have way more of a threat because the Dolphins run a lot of 2 tight end sets, with Durham Smythe and Julian Hill being moved around behind Jonnu Smith. But you now have Tyler Warren, who's a infinity better pass catcher than Durham Smythe or Julian Hill, and as equal as a run blocker. Your offense would just take a massive leap forward. And yeah, it's hard for me to say draft Tyler Warren because of the bigger need at corner, defensive line, offensive line, safety. But if Warren was on the board at 13, which I don't think he will, I think he'll be a top 10 pick, but there are some people that believe he will be on the board, like Daniel Jeremiah. If he's there at 13 and they drafted him, I tell you what, I wouldn't be that upset. All right, we are sponsored by Prize Picks. We're going to get to my last 5 draft targets in a second, but I want to give a shout out to the #1 daily fantasy sports platform out there. I play Prize Picks every single day because I can customize the way I play with different players across different sports leagues and win up to 1,000 times your money. And on Prize Picks, you can mix and match player projections from different sports, combine your favorite basketball players with players from baseball, hockey, esports, and much more. Prize Picks also offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. And like I mentioned, you can play in so many different ways. Daily, season-long as well. I have a season-long baseball entry here, more than on Paul Skeens and Tarek Skubal strikeouts, more than on Jaron Duran home runs there. Join me and the millions of others on Prize Picks right now by downloading the app. And make sure you use code CLNS when you're signing up to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. One more time, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, we're going to get into my back half of targets here for Dolphins at pick number 13. Number 6 on my list, defensive back Jahdae Barron. And I put DB for a reason. It's because he is such a versatile player that can play 3 different positions on this back end of the Dolphins defense. And his best year of his career was this past season for the Texas Longhorns. I mean, look at how many times he was tested in coverage as a boundary corner, and he lived up to the hype, man. A completion percentage of under 50%, a QB rating of 33.1, 5 takeaways, no touchdowns allowed. Barron was an absolute dominating force for that Texas defense last year. And he is a fascinating prospect for a lot of reasons. I just briefly mentioned the versatility a second ago. That is something on display here with Jahdae because he could play nickel, he could play safety, and he could play boundary corner in the NFL. At Texas, he played boundary last season. They wanted him. He wanted it to boost his draft stock, and he performed well in a tough SEC conference. And then the years before, he played in that star type of defensive role that Jalen Ramsey played for the Rams, where it's a nickel, safety, box, defensive back hybrid. So if the Dolphins drafted him, you're getting a chess piece on the defensive side of the ball. He could play deep free safety. He could play in the box. He could play in the nickel. Play boundary corner, which is why I have him very, very high on my board. Number 7 is a player that I don't think we've talked a lot about, but I really actually like this player, and it's the defensive lineman from Michigan, Kenneth Grant. I believe that this is someone Chris Grier will really, really like. He has a high motor. He is an unbelievable athlete for his size. I mean, you look at this guy. This guy is a space eater, 6'3" and 5'8", 331 pounds. He was productive in both rushing the passer as well as stopping the run last season for the Wolverines, was equally as good in 2023 as that Michigan defense was leading that offense to a national championship. And as I mentioned just a second ago, I expect Chris Grier to like Kenneth Grant because to me, Kenneth Grant possesses a lot of the same skill sets and qualities as Christian Wilkins, who he drafted, ironically, with the 13th overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft. Grant, look up the highlight. I forget who he tracked down, but he was obviously in the middle of that defensive line, running back, it might have been Penn State, breaks out to the left side, running down the field, gets into the second level. You know who tracks him down from behind? Kenneth Grant. Dude's a freak athlete for his size, and I would expect Chris Grier to like him. How much does he like him? Because 13 could be the highest point Kenneth Grant goes, but I wouldn't be shocked if he was picked by Miami. Another DB here, Nic Rohloff, the safety from South Carolina. This is someone who went from a fringe first-round pick, early second-round guy, to now a first-round lock, it feels like. Very high on Daniel Jeremiah's board, and I think his ceiling in the NFL Draft is to be selected by the Miami Dolphins at pick number 13. Someone who just rose up boards due to his performance at the NFL Combine, had a ridiculous RAS score, and it was a perfect 10. Dude's 6'2", physical. People compare him to Cam Chancellor due to his physicality and size. He also had a good year in terms of covering as well. The Dolphins have a top 30 visit scheduled with Nic Rohloff. So this is clearly someone Miami is interested in. They want to get to learn about him even more, and it could be a name you see linked to the Dolphins at 13 as we get closer and closer to late April. Isn't my favorite prospect, but I do think he is someone a lot of people like. Who is your favorite Dolphins draft target? Could be a first-round guy like the players we're mentioning today. Could be a guy in the second round, third round, fourth round, fifth round. Doesn't matter to me. Just drop an NFL draft prospect that you really like for the Miami Dolphins. Number 9 here out of 10, Jihad Campbell, the linebacker from Alabama. I don't think Miami goes with Campbell, but this is a player I really like. Campbell was elite for Alabama last season. He is good in coverage. He is a downhill run stopper as well. But the Dolphins re-signed Tyrel Dodson, brought in KJ Britt on a one-year deal. I just wouldn't expect Campbell to be the pick for Miami at 13, but he is a stud, and I think he's going to be an excellent NFL football player. Defensive lineman here, Derek Harmon from Oregon. I think Harmon is a very, very good defensive lineman. I think 13 might be a little bit rich for him. I think Kenneth Grant's probably too rich at 13. I think Grant and Harmon are both in that range of late teens, early 20s to mid 20s, but Harmon can do it both in the run game as well as pass rushing. Had 5 sacks for the Ducks last season. Good size at 6'4", 313. I like Harmon a lot. The thing is with me, which is why I have Grant and Harmon on my list, but 7 and 10 respectively, is that I don't anticipate Miami going defensive line in the first round. I think they could, and I wouldn't be upset if they did. But the thing is this defensive lineman class is super, super deep. You can get a guy like TJ Sanders from South Carolina in round 2. Deanna Walker out of Kentucky in round 3. There's just so many good D linemen. We talked about it. The 3-4 positions that have been labeled as the most deep in this draft class: safety, defensive line, running back, tight end. Which is why it would be hard-pressed for me to see the Dolphins go D-line or safety, or not safety, but D-line or tight end in round 1. Could see them going safety because of how good those players are, but we'll see what Miami ultimately does when the draft rolls around. And like I mentioned, we'll be live during the NFL Draft. We'll be live throughout the next 4 or 5 weeks leading up to the draft with videos every single day as well. So hit that sub button and join us here at Dolphins Today. All right, that is it. 4 segments in the book. Let me know who your favorite target is. Let me know. I see Starks, Will Campbell, Jahdae Barron, Starks or Will Johnson, Will Campbell. So a lot of Dolphins fans rocking Will Campbell. I mean, I like that's my number one. It's my number one. I like Will Johnson a lot, man, too. My legs are freezing. I usually don't get cold in the legs, too. But my shins are cold. I can't even imagine being back there. If I feel this cold in this one. All right, still 83 people watching. Thank you for everyone tuning in on today's show. If you guys want us to stay live, send in a super chat. We'll stay live. But if no super chats come in a minute, we'll sign off and let you enjoy the rest of your Tuesday and the rest of your week. Jonathan Soto says, love watching the lives. This is one of the best ones to date. Well, thank you. What makes you say that, Soto? Is it just what we were talking about, the actual content? What made it the best, in your opinion? Generally curious. Soto said, I'm just curious to see what made you think it's the best. Was it the content? Was it the, I don't know. Why was it the best one yet? What record prediction do you have for the Fins? I will not predict the record for the Miami Dolphins until I know the complete roster and I know the schedule. I don't want to put anything out there that could be, I wouldn't say taken out of context, but not how my true thoughts are. If I say they're an 8-9 team right now, yet they signed another offensive lineman that's good, like Brandon Scherf, draft a Will Johnson or Malaki Starks in round 1, and then get another stud in round 2. It's going to be a different one. Buddy Bear's in the building. How's it going, Buddy Bear? Oh, I appreciate the kind words, Soto. I think the first segment we did on Nick Westbrook-Ikhine was pretty solid. Underrated segment right there. All right, no super chats came in that minute. So since we're done and since it's almost time to get out of here, we'll let you guys get out of here. Appreciate everyone who came in and hung out with us today. Appreciate the super chats from Poe, Frank O'Connor, Wasim Khan. Appreciate Justin for helping us out as always. Peace out, folks. See you next week.